Hello friends, welcome back. It is a very chill Saturday here. We're weirdly all home. You get older kids and then all of a sudden you're not home together all the time like you used to be when you were little or when the kids were little. So I have been trying to film this video for a while. I like to make the Detroit style pizza when all of us are home. And so we're in the thick of basketball season. My oldest daughter works now, and so we're not all home together for dinner as much as we used to be. So it's a very chill Saturday, and now I'm going to make Detroit style pizza. So probably the rest of the video will be voiceover because it's very loud in my house, and it's hard for me to concentrate and talk while it's loud. So I'm gonna go get the dough ready. It's a very easy dough. And that's where we're gonna start. And then yeah, I will just take you through the recipe. It's a really good one. I'm glad I found it. The original recipe will be linked below. And I am tweaking some stuff, for myself. So I will tell you what I do, but the original recipe will be linked down below. Starting out by getting out all of my ingredients. Very simple ingredients. It's just bread flour, salt, instant yeast. There is a difference between the two, like instant and just regular dry yeast. We're using instant yeast and then just warm water. And you'll see that I got my scale out because the recipe, it does give you measurements, but when you use like grams on a scale, it's just a whole lot more accurate. And I prefer to do that when the recipe gives me that option. Here's my instant yeast. I just keep it in the freezer, and then I'm just weighing out exactly how much it tells me to, and then we're just going to add the warm water. And I am doubling this recipe, so that's why you will see me make 2 pans. This is probably one of my favorite things in my kitchen. When we were building our house, I gave up the trash can, like in a pull-out drawer, to be able to have this pull-out stand mixer, and then I don't have to keep my mixer on the counter. Don't have to lift it, like it's like spring-loaded, so it lifts really nice. It's just one of my favorite things. Because we're using instant yeast, when we first start mixing this, we're going to mix it until it just forms a ball. See how it's real shaggy? And then we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes and we're going to let it rest and let that yeast activate. Then we're going to come back when the 10 minutes are up and we are going to knead it for 10 minutes. When the 10 minutes are up, this is what your dough should look like. It's a very wet dough, very sticky dough, so it's not going to pull away from the sides of the bowl like a bread dough would. So I just wanted to point that out because you might think you need to add more flour, but just follow the recipe exactly and it comes out perfect every time. I just set the dough aside to rest and rise. It needs to double in size, so it takes about 2 hours. So I'm going to use that time to mix up my cheeses. I'm using a blend of mozzarella and Monterey Jack. The original recipe calls for brick, I think it's called Wisconsin brick cheese or something like that, which is a pretty high fat content mozzarella type cheese, or white cheese, I guess. Monterey Jack has a good fat content, and so I just mixed the two, like 2 parts mozzarella to 1 part Monterey Jack, and it turned out great for us. So make sure you shred your own cheese because the shredded stuff does not melt well at all, the pre-shredded stuff. So shred your own and just mix it up in a bag and then I just keep it in the refrigerator till I'm ready. Here's my dough 2 hours later. It's risen and doubled nicely. And so now I'm gonna weigh out the dough because I made a double batch. You wouldn't have to do this part if you're just making a single batch. But the pans are exactly the same size, and so I really want them to cook at exactly the same time. So I'm just gonna weigh it and measure it out exactly. Now the pans that you use, really, it does matter. I don't have the steel pans, but I have these dark aluminum pans, and they're the exact same size. They're actually the exact same pan, and they're rectangle like that with a really square corner, so that works best to get the pizza out when you're done. I am adding olive oil, and then this is part of the deviation here, is we like the flavor of butter in our crust, so I did melted butter, kind of mix that all around as well. Now it is time to do the first, well, I guess this would be like the second rise, I guess. But I flipped the dough over just so it has some oil on the top as well, and you can see how it doesn't want to stay stretched out. That means the dough needs to rest for a while. So I'm going to kind of stretch it as much as I can, and then I'm going to cover it in plastic wrap and let it rest for about 30 minutes before I try to work with it again. While the dough is resting, I am setting the timer, and then I'm going to turn my oven on basically as hot as it will go. The recipe calls for 550, so mine went that high, so that's what I did. And then you want your oven racks to be pretty low to the bottom of the oven because you want a nice crispy crust on the bottom. Alright, so I did not use the pizza sauce recipe in the original recipe. I had a half a jar of Rao's left. Last time I used just straight Rao's and it really just tasted like marinara sauce. So I doctored it up this time and got it much closer to a pizza sauce consistency. I added some diced tomatoes, Italian seasoning, lots of garlic powder, probably a little bit of onion powder, and then oregano for sure, because that's kind of what gives it that pizza sauce flavor. And this, it's kind of a chunky sauce. My son really doesn't like chunks, so next time I would probably use crushed, but I got it much more the consistency and taste of pizza sauce. So now it's been 30 minutes, and I'm just going to poke some holes in the, not holes, but like punch down the air bubbles, and you can see how much stretchier the dough is and how it's going to just lay in the pan and stay where I put it, even with all of that oil and butter in the bottom of the pan. So here's what it looks like when it is ready for the sauce. Here's another deviation. We don't like sauce on top of our pizza. We like the cheese to get nice and crispy on top. So Detroit style pizza has the sauce on top, but we don't do it that way. I'm just going to spread it all out, and then we're going to put the cheese. Now, it is a lot of cheese. It's going to feel like a lot of cheese when you put this on your pizza, but it's 12 ounces per pizza. This is deep dish. This is like a treat. This is not something that we do every single week or anything. So it's a lot of cheese, but that's what you want, and you want the cheese all the way to the edge of the pan so you get those nice crispy edges. I'm adding pepperoni to one of the pizzas because that's what we like, and leaving one just plain cheese. Then it is time to bake. I believe the original recipe calls for like 12 to 15 minutes. I ended up baking mine 19 minutes because we really like a crispy crust, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't soggy in the middle. But this is how they turn out. They are perfect every time. I hope you try this recipe, and as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!